Thanks for joining us for this episode of In the Hot Seat presented by Carbide. Here you'll learn about all things security, privacy, and compliance for startups and high-growth companies. Our roster of industry experts are here to answer your burning questions and share their insights. Every episode, they'll discuss topics like the variety of security and privacy compliance tools, methods, and resources that you and your business can use to gain the competitive edge you've been looking for. I'd like to introduce you to today's host, James Boyle, Manager of Partnerships and Channels at Carbide. James is an information security and privacy expert and a sales leader helping SaaS companies close more deals. Today's guest is Ryan Johanson, partner at Johanson Group. Ryan specializes in SOC 2, ISO 27001, and HIPAA engagements. In today's episode, James will be sitting down with Ryan to discuss SOC 2 compliance from an auditor's perspective by answering questions like, what are the key benefits of achieving SOC 2 compliance? How long does a SOC 2 audit generally take? What does the SOC 2 auditing process generally look like? And what are the top challenges you see companies facing when preparing for and going through a SOC 2 audit? And more.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going today?
Doing great. It's a great day out there. Sun is shining. Ready to talk about some SOC 2 compliance.
Where are you at in the world right now?
I'm in Colorado Springs.
Oh, I'm over here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in beautiful the east coast of Canada. So we're a bit far apart, but it's glad we're able to come together today. And yeah, we're here today to talk about, I guess, the SOC 2 audit process, maybe demystify some of it, but also get into more or less beyond just the basics of SOC 2. I think to kind of start off, though, it might be great to understand from your perspective and maybe to hear it from you as an auditor, what is SOC 2?
Yeah, it's a compliance framework. The theory behind it is to verify that you're actually doing the security things that you said you were doing in those questionnaires. People got tired of filling out the questionnaires. Companies got tired of being lied to or told, yeah, we're totally doing it. They're not. And so AICPA put together a framework based on COSO and NIST to give companies that are doing business with these SOC 2 companies that they're comfortable sharing their data with them and doing business with them, that they have processes and procedures in place to keep that data secure.
And you say the AICPA, what is that? Is that an organization?
Yeah, it's the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It's here in the US, and they're the certifying body for CPAs to issue the SOC 2 reports. So your firm has to be registered with the AICPA to be able to issue a SOC 2 report.
And so they're the ones that created this process, basically.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And what are the key benefits of it? So you're going for SOC 2 compliance. Why does a company need to be, and maybe specifically from a SaaS company perspective, and then maybe we'll talk about a non-SaaS company perspective, but from a SaaS company's perspective, what are the key benefits to achieving SOC 2?
One of them is that you are able to close deals. The times past where they kind of take your word for it that you're keeping things secure, and now they really want that security. So you'll find out that you're starting to get blocked out from deals if you don't have your SOC 2 report as you're even going to the sales conversations. So that's probably one of the main reasons to get it, other than trying to keep your name out of the front page of the newspaper, having your systems hacked.
And we're talking probably predominantly SaaS companies, right? Is that who you work with?
That's most of it. We're seeing it expand into other areas, not-for-profits. Just saw a local government come through the other day. MSPs are starting to jump on there. So it's expanding just past the SaaS companies.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, I think we're having more and more conversations about SOC 2 generally. I think you're right. I hear MSPs talking about their architecture clients and their real estate clients, which makes me think that, SOC 2 broadly is, I guess, about protecting data, security. What is it broadly looking at, and why would a non-tech company even need to worry about it?
Yeah, it looks at more than just the software. So it looks at your process of hiring, of terminations, of what is your board of directors doing, how involved are they? Then it starts to look at some of your servers. What is your website doing? How's your data being processed? How are you classifying that? So, it looks at more than just the software at your code.
And then when you say it stands in the way of deals, what does that mean exactly? Are you seeing your customers come to you because they have pressure to be SOC 2? Is that what people are asking about? And who's putting that pressure on?
Yeah, so the clients are under pressure. They have a deal that's hanging out there, and their customers saying, we won't sign, or we can't sign to do business with you unless you have your SOC 2 Type 2. And so they're under the gun to get that as fast as possible. So starting early is way better, because they'll just get completely blocked out. And then by the time they're actually have their SOC 2 Type 2, the company's moved on and found another solution for that. So
we're saying in North America, I guess these companies that you might be doing deals with might be larger enterprises, or could be, you could be a startup a year or two in, and you're about to close your first deal, and that first deal's hinging on the fact that you should have had, they want you to have a SOC 2 in place. So now you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I get that done, and how quick is it going to happen? And so maybe you can talk a little bit about how long that does take. So, let's just assume that I'm a company. We know many of them. It's a startup. They have a lot of, challenging issues to deal with day to day. And so they may push this off, knowing they should have done it 6 months ago, but now they've got the deal in front of them. What do they do now? So I got to get SOC 2. How long is that going to take? And how risky, how much risk does that put the deal in?
Yeah, generally we kind of see like 3 to 4 months. It really all depends. The 2-week thing that gets advertised, it's possible, but not very realistic. If the company has to drop everything they're doing and focus straight on SOC 2 for the whole time, which doesn't work. So kind of 3 to 4 months, you work closely with the platform, Carbide's got the co-pilot, so work with your co-pilot and walk through the process, get those controls in place, work through the platform, get things integrated. And you like to have a little bit of time to make sure that you can actually do those controls. So, and then you need time to pass for that SOC 2 Type 2. Usually the minimum audit period is 3 months for that. So, 3 months to get ready, 3 months for the audit window, and then it's another 4 to 6 weeks for us to perform the audit and issue the report. So you're kind of looking at a 7-8 month timeline to get your first SOC 2 Type 2. So you kind of have to start a little early, and not a lot of people are going to hang out for 8 months while you get your SOC 2 Type 2. So,
and that includes that's including the prep, right? So we're talking 3 to 4 months of prep, 3 to 4 months of an audit window. And then you mentioned Type 2. So I know personally, but maybe for the folks listening, what is Type 2 when you say it? And then I'm assuming, which I know the answer to, there's a Type 1 as well, right? So when we say Type 1, Type 2 in SOC 2, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so there's 2 types of SOC 2 reports. There's a SOC 2 Type 1, which is a snapshot in time, looks at 1 day. And our opinion is that things are appropriately designed. So we're really looking more at are your controls matching the SOC 2 criteria? Do you have the policies, procedures in place? Which is kind of a stepping stone that you're set up for success. Should you follow all of that, you'll be good. Whereas the SOC 2 looks over a period of time, and we up the opinion to things are operating effectively. So you're actually doing what it is you said you would do in those controls and those policies. And that's what people are looking for. They want to actually know that you're doing all those controls that you'd put in place to start with.
So Type 1 moment in time, Type 2 is auditing a segment of time. And then it's in that really that Type 2 where you get a proper report that your customers probably want to see. So do you have to do a Type 1? How does that work?
Yeah, you don't have to do a Type 1. In the days before platforms, you really need to do a Type 1 to make sure that you would set things up correctly. nowadays with Carbide, we know things are set up correctly. We see the controls all the time. It's well developed. So you can go straight for the type 2. It already gives you a good dashboard, know what's outstanding, what you need to do. So you can just get everything set up. You see everything's green, start the clock for your type 2 and go from there. So we're seeing a lot of clients just go straight for the type 2.
And when you think about that, though, I'm curious, and you don't need to give exact prices here, but I'm curious, if you do a type 1 first, is your type 2 less expensive? If you don't do the type 1, is the type 2 more expensive? What is that sort of timeline? Is there a benefit to just jumping to type 2? Like, does it save a lot of money? Does it save a lot of time?
Yeah, it's not a big time savings because the type 1 just looks at one day and you start your type 2 audit period that very next day. So it slow you down one day. It's a little bit extra money. So we do some bundle costing for a type 1 and type 2. So it's less expensive than doing a type 1 and then a type 2, save you a couple $1,000s on that. Really do a type 1 if you need something quick to get in front of a customer to help the sales conversations going along, or if internally you need to show that you're making progress on this, then definitely do a type 1. Sometimes people will use a letter of engagement from the auditors saying you've engaged Johanson Group to perform the audit, and we'll start based on your readiness, or if you have dates in place, we call those out, and that keeps the sales conversation going as well. That, hey, we're actively working towards it. So some customers they don't really care about the type 1; they will only look at a type 2. So it doesn't really hurt you at all, and it's not that much more expensive, probably 3,000-4,000 extra to add on a type 1. So really just kind of look at that business case of whether they'll benefit your company or not.
It's interesting, in my conversations with companies, I'm sure you get this when they talk about audits, but it's a really interesting thing that maybe we don't talk enough about is security versus business case. And it's interesting that we even framing this conversation today about, well, you'll probably get SOC 2 to get a deal done. But really, is that the focus? Like, are we supposed to be thinking like security to make money? Or is it security because security is important? And I'm really curious to hear your opinion on the fact that are we thinking too much about only getting SOC 2 when we get pressure to do it versus how important it is to just do because it's the right thing to do?
Yeah, SOC 2 does not ensure that you'll never get hacked. It's a bar to clear. We're even seeing a lot of companies that will require SOC 2, and then they come in and do their own internal audit of this potential customer. So then they'll come in and put in their own additional controls or expectations in their SLAs with that client. So it's not a have all be all. It's a great starting point, and you're supposed to continue to review your policies and review your risks and adjust your controls. Business changes, the world changes, new software is developed. So you may find that your controls really are now kind of out of date and aren't really providing any additional protection to you, that you need to update and put a new control in place and a new policy in place. So yes, it's not the end goal. It's a stopping point along your way of we've achieved at least a certain level of security, but we can go higher than that.
So it makes me think too, then, if we're going to go higher anyway, if it's going to go beyond SOC 2 and the world's heading in that direction, I think it's really interesting to hear the perspective of the fact that you're doing SOC 2 audits only to get a company to see that as the foundation, then to audit beyond that. It makes me think that there should be a focus on just doing SOC 2 from day one, not just to win the deal, but just because it's probably one of the best ways to put a foundational security and privacy program in place, right? Is that what we're saying? It's almost like table stakes, or if I could say it another way, we worry a lot about our accounting software and our CRMs. Maybe we should also worry about SOC 2 from day one, just to ensure that you've got that foundation. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of companies pre-seed working on SOC 2. It's usually a little bit easier to put in place at the beginning. as opposed to you start building your company and you have a culture in place, and it may have been fairly loose and, just getting things out the door. And, then they have to come back in and redo the whole process and be more structured about it and more thoughtful about it. And that takes some time. We often call it herding the cats, of trying to get everybody on the same page and going in the same direction of things. There's no, cowboys out there shooting from the hip. You really got to follow the process that you put in place, and that's what you're going to get audited on. So putting that culture and those expectations right from the beginning, I think really speed up the maturity of a company.
And is that those controls you're talking about? Is that basically what controls are?
Yeah. So, the controls will state how often you do something or what you're doing, and then there's a policy behind it. So you may say, your policy may state you do a pen test, an external pen test annually. And then your policy behind that will expand that a little bit more. You'll be looking at what areas of our system we're going to pen test. If it's going to be, white hat, black hat, are you going to add in some phishing, things like that. So there's more behind it. You get your initial control, and then you expand behind it in the policy.
All right. Well, it's interesting when we talk about setting a foundation. So that's what we want to do, right? And I think to what you're saying, you're almost saying like create a culture of security and privacy inside an organization, no matter the size. If you haven't done it, if you're been around for 15 years and you haven't done it, you might as well start today. But if you're starting today and it's the first day of your business, start today, I guess is what we're saying. Is just do it, get started, do it, focus on SOC 2 before you're pressured to do it, and then put that foundation in place so that when you're asked about it, or for peace of mind, you can go to sleep at night knowing that you've at least laid a foundation that you're going to continually work on. Yeah.
It's a little bit of, covering things that you've made a good faith effort to do everything you knew how to do to keep things safe. There's bad actors out there that obviously can do bad things, but it gives you a peace of mind of you've done everything you could do.
And what about challenges here? So people, we're talking like almost like SOC 2 is easy, spend a few months, you just sort of put it in place, do it now. That's not really the case, right? There's a lot to it. And then thinking about the challenges of different companies, maybe we start from the perspective of a startup, maybe been around for a year or two. What are those challenges you see?
One's a little bit of cost. It's not free. It is way cheaper than it used to be. You can, the old days you'd hire a consultant or hire the auditors to help you do that, and you'd be charged a lot of money to do that. And now those costs have come way down, and they're pretty affordable. And audit fees themselves have come way down. A couple of years, they've probably come down $5,000 from what we used to charge just a few years ago. So it's becoming the financial bar's coming way down. Probably the next hurdles are just getting the policies in place and organizing your company correctly. Usually the IT stuff isn't a big hurdle. Smart people knowing what they're doing, they've already done a number of it. It's just putting the integrations and cleaning up the last couple things. But probably we see most people struggle with getting the policies in place and creating that formal structure.
With Carbide, for instance, we're going to generate your policies day one. So to put them in place is pretty quick. You just literally have them ready to go. But when you're saying put them in place, you're basically saying actioning on what you said you're going to do, right?
Yeah. The templates are fantastic and speed things up quite a bit. Some people just want to revamp them and change them a little bit, and that's sometimes where they still out. But yeah, once you put that policy in place and you accept it, now you got to do it. So make sure.
How do you prove that you're doing it?
So it's going to come out in the evidence. You're going to have that control statement. Usually have a control that says that your employees accept these policies. And so we'll be looking for the approval when they accepted it. When new hires came on, do they accept it within the time period you set? When you're saying, hey, we do vulnerability scans. All right, let's see the results of those. Let's look at your ticketing system. Did the code go through the appropriate reviews before it was released into production? So all those things generate some evidence, a report, a ticket, a signature, and that's what we're going to be looking at as auditors, to see that evidence that you followed your process.
Makes sense to me. I think it's, I guess, with any audit, whether it's financial or security, SOC 2, it's basically proof that you said you're doing what you're doing what you said you're doing. It's proof that you're doing that. What about a company that's more mature? Is there any other issues they run into? I think earlier you mentioned, sometimes once you've built the culture up, it's hard to shift that culture. But if you had to talk to a company, it's their first, they've been in business for 10 years. And it's their first time going through a SOC 2 audit. Are there any unique challenges that come up?
Some things, sometimes they have to rework some of their processes out. They have something in place, but they just need to revamp it. Sometimes the mature companies can speed things up because they already have some of these structures in place. So they may already have a policy for all of these things, and they can just take it and drop it straight in the platform and use that. Sometimes getting senior management buy-in can be a struggle because they've been operating and been successful doing business the way they have been doing things. And so they haven't quite caught on to the changes in the marketplace out there. And so if your IT department's struggling, security department's struggling on their own to get things going because they don't have the buy-in from senior management.
And I guess the risk today is that we're in a very complicated world technology-wise. So it goes back to, I guess, what you said earlier, SOC 2 is the foundation. And so if you're pushing against this in your organization, we've been around for 10 years, why do we need to do this now? You're talking, definitely some money, but is a ransomware attack worth the few $1,000s you're going to put in place to ensure you've got these policies in place? And you can't guarantee it, right? We can't guarantee that just by implementing the SOC 2 controls, nothing's going to happen. But without them, the likelihood of something happening is coming. It makes me think too of insurance companies. We're hearing that you might not get insurance, or your insurance could double or triple without a SOC 2 report or something similar. We're hearing that some companies just won't even, it's like becoming table stakes. So if you don't have it, we're not even going to talk to you. So it's really interesting where we're at today. And so you'd probably agree or disagree with the statement that, it is more important than some of us think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, used to be the case that cyber insurance was super cheap. You're just like, yeah, for a couple $1,000s, why not? And, now it's, you better have things in place. The insurance companies are really knocking down on it. So it's more important than you think getting out there, not just for closing deals, but for peace of mind, for insurance. As a business case, you really just need to be doing this almost like the financial audits to show your investors how you're doing. This is on the IT side, and it's becoming that important.
It really speaks to the culture, right? Just adopt it now, do it now. It's less complicated than you think, right? You just got to go through the process, but don't fight it maybe. Yeah.
Don't be looking for a shortcut. Just take the lumps and move forward, make the changes you need to, that you should make, and just do it correctly from the beginning. We see companies that try to do the check the box thing. Hey, we just want the report. I don't really care. What's the minimum I need to do? And they spend way more time trying to fight things and putting the controls in place. And yeah, just do it. Just be secure. And then you'll be better.
That makes me think of a scenario where you look at your customer for the first time. You're a startup, you're about to sign your first major deal, and they ask you, do you have a SOC 2 audit? You've got a couple options. Are you going to lie about having one and then try to fake it till you do it later? Are you going to tell them you don't have it and you didn't really take security seriously and you're trying to make up a bunch of reasons why you don't need to do it? Or are you going to present a well done, completed SOC 2 audit report that then gives them confidence that they can move ahead with you immediately, doesn't stall your deal, moves it forward? And you got to ask yourself, am I good to say, no, I don't take security seriously? Is this deal going to even be good if I lie? Clearly, you shouldn't be lying about this stuff. Or if you just have it done, how much easier is that first deal going to go? And it's interesting how many people spend a lot of time trying to justify why they don't need to do it versus once they've done it, then they've got it and it moves the deal so much quicker.
Yeah. One, you can't lie because the next question is, okay, let's see it. Let's see your SOC 2 report. So you're not going to get anywhere with that. And a lot of people would try to pawn off their security onto AWS or Azure, like, hey, they're SOC 2 compliant. We're working all on their platforms. We're good. But SOC 2 really covers more than that. It's really your business practices. So, your customers aren't going to take, hey, AWS is SOC 2, so therefore we're fine. It just doesn't work that way anymore. They want to see that you internally are doing what it is that needs to be done.
So I got a couple more questions before we go. That leads into one of the last questions I want to ask. How much of this is non-technical? So I've got AWS running. I'm doing vulnerability scanning. I've got a pen test done. My CTO's done all this work foundationally. But how much of this is more than just the technical side?
There's a good chunk that relies on the HR piece. People are a big part of your business. They're also a big risk. So you want to make sure that you're hiring the right people, that your contractors are the right people to be working in there, and also the people that you're doing business with. You want to look at the risks of the companies that are helping you out. So you want to look at their SOC 2 reports or have them fill out the questionnaires. But it also looks at the board of directors. So there's a good chunk of this that is more than just the technical piece of things.
Which is important, I guess. So it's the well-rounded look at your company. You've got controls in place that are technical and non-technical. And even if that's 30%, well, that's 30% of things that your CTO might not be able to do. You might not be able to just assign a technical person to it. So even 20 or 30% of this will be more than just the technical look. So that's all really great information. I guess the last thing I had for you, what is the one piece of advice you'd give companies out there? What would you want to say if you could tell every SaaS company, every tech company, every business on why this is important? What do you got?
You need to be secure. So it's not as hard as you think. It does go faster than you think, but well, it may go slower than you think if you think you need it in 2 weeks. It just doesn't work. Next advice, get a platform. Use Carbide, use it to its fullest capabilities. It's way cheaper and faster than getting a consultant. They know what they're doing. It keeps the audit fees low. Start building it from the beginning and get on a platform. Keep that continuous monitoring. I guess the next piece of advice would be, once you get your SOC 2 type 2 report, the next audit period starts the next day. It's not a one and done. It's a continuous audit period. And we're going to be seeing you in a year. Your customers are going to be expecting a new SOC 2 report in a year. So you can't let the ball drop.
So the number one rule, if you take away anything from today, is just get started. If you haven't done it, you just got to get started. The more that you put it off, the harder it is. And so today's the day, right?
Yeah.
That's basically it. All right. Awesome, Ryan. Well, look, I'm excited that we got to chat. Always a pleasure to get to chat with you. SOC 2 is obviously important to our industry and every SaaS company out there. It's becoming table stakes. So really appreciate your insight and look forward to talking to you again soon in the future.
Thanks, James. Appreciate you having me on.